Virginia. And I just had to go live right now to talk about the awesome FAQ that dropped. I know some of my friends and I were like, I guess it's not traditional that an FAQ comes out too quickly with previous editions, and the FAQs that we did have by the end in 3 came out slowly over time. So I'm excited that this was a pretty fast update for some stuff that I've heard definitely people be talking about. Particularly right off the gate, I'm just going to show some of my favorite things in this video quickly. I hope my dog doesn't go crazy next to me here as people walk across the thing. I'm really excited about these rules, guys, because I've toiled over some of these big time and tried to ask, but in my Facebook chats with my homies that play Infinity, like it's just ranting and raving late into the night. How does this rule work? Particularly for some of these Discord events I've been taking part of for Tabletop Simulator. I've actually been playing tournaments inside this in the world we live in right now, and so I cared about these rulings and made sure I wanted to do them right, not cheat my opponent, not cheat myself. And some of these I'm gonna just point to real quick in this video, right off the bat. I don't even feel like going into this too much, but there was so many people that were commenting back and forth about moving around corners. For the most part, it's TOs had said no. You got to measure your distance going around corners based on the way that the ruling was for going through small hallways. And in 4, they've made it so that when there's a narrow passageway, as long as you can start on one end and end on the other, not stuck in the tiny passageway, you can go through these gaps now, which makes the board more playable, more fun. But some wanted to interpret that as also potentially meaning you could cut the corners. And they have clarified here that's not how that works. Feels good. That was to be expected. I'm just going to jump over to my sheet here. Some of these I'm going to show the ones that were to be expected or that were kind of already spelled out, but you had to dig for it. And I'm glad that it's right up front. We'll start out with this one right out the bat. Do state mods stack with each other? I'm glad to see this, like EM weapons on heavy infantry, where you're both immobilized and isolated, and there's 2 different resets that are dictated there, and it was questionable if they added together. If you study the way that the mod rule was described in the rule book and read all the bullets for how mods work, you could discover that yes, they did stack, but you had to kind of dig for it and scratch your head on it. It's nice to be able to point to it directly. Even if these FAQs spell out the obvious or like it was already kind of written out, it's nice for these quick interpretations, because you're going to meet people that are new from N3 to N4 or just new to the game itself and maybe not ran into these interactions before. And in tournament play, when things, kind of the heat is on, it's nice to be able to quickly point to something that's complicated and with an answer that just says, is that how that works? Yes, that's how it works, instead of having to really dig in like you had to make sure that all the rules interact correctly. So no needing to get a TO involved. It speeds everything up. So I like this rule just to see it quickly in front of us, even though I had discovered that was accurate. Here is one that just made me flip my head. I think this is one of the biggest ones in here. Do the +1 burst, +2 burst on pistols count in CC? I was not even thinking to look for this in the FAQ. I was just like, what? That is how that works? So now I want to look at every profile that in every faction that I use and look for anybody that has +1 burst pistols, because now that is +2 CC, and that is rare. Martial arts level 5 or CC what burst 2 is very sprinkled throughout the game. And on the talk show last night, we were talking about how rare that is. And now there's quite a few more profiles. Kodali has +1 assault pistols, and now Kodali's that much better with 2 burst CC with Protheon and martial arts. It's crazy. So really pumped about that one. Unfortunately, the +1 burst pistol rule is not something you can filter in the army builder. So I'm going to literally have to click on like every profile and try to go treasure hunting for that. So super excited about that rule. That's one of the biggest nuggets, I think. The impetuous rule is very nice to have clarified, and it was to be something that everybody wanted to see happen. Is how did this work? One, if you're inside of a deployment zone, then you can move normally, because obviously the impetuous move is to move as close to the enemy deployment zone as you can. Well, that's what I say. It could have been interpreted previously that you could move at a tiny diagonal. You could, as long as you slightly move towards the enemy deployment zone, it was okay. But now they've clarified it. You have to move basically as far as you possibly can from your starting position towards the enemy deployment zone. Happy to see that. That's how it felt like it should be intended. The fact that impetuous is something you can just turn off automatically now, it's like so good compared to how it was in N3 that you felt like that needed to be there for the balancing act. So I'm glad to see it. Yep. So there, I'm glad to see that. This is another one of those rules that's just quick to be able to explain. Sixth Sense, when somebody like lines up a smoke attack to shoot you with MSV through the smoke, they're setting up a combo, and then all of a sudden you're like, that combo doesn't work against me. I can shoot you back normally. No, I don't have MSV. I have Sixth Sense. I'm in a link team, so I just ignore your -6 mod. That can be jarring at first if you haven't recognized that interaction, which is pretty publicized now. People have talked about it pretty clearly that Sixth Sense is strong. But if you did run into that, you have a quick thing to point to. No TO need to be involved. No rule books to be answered. Just a quick shot with that boy there. Same thing with bioimmunity. It's been a conversation, but monofilament, making you take an armor 0 save. Well, if you choose to take a BTS save, it is not reduced to 0. I thought, cool, you get hit with an EM attack that usually is a double save, halved BTS. If you choose to take armor, you still take a double save, but you don't have to have the AP, the armor. That's nice, just to see in one place quickly. Again, it's a strange interaction that's a little bit different from N3 to N4. So nice to be able to point to it quickly. This one was huge for me, guys. This is one of those ones that I was like begging my friends to give me a definitive answer, and no one could really. Everybody had a different opinion. If a trooper used an airborne deployment skill to deploy onto the table via a coordinated order impetuous activation, what happens to their own order? They would lose their order. So Yans are an obvious one. They have impetuous irregular, I believe. And the trick was, and especially in N3, players would use the impetuous order to hit the table and then still be able to use their irregular order based on the way rules were written or interpreted. But now it's quite clear that even if you have an irregular order and use your impetuous to enter the table, that irregular order is gone, and you won't have it for that particular turn. The Mirage 5 with Duroc is another special unit that that dog has impetuous irregular. You will not get that irregular. So I'm just glad to see that. I was going crazy over that. It did come up in a tournament game. Luckily, I went the way of, if you don't know something, it's usually better to take the hit versus the positive, and I did in that situation. I'm glad. My honor is still intact. This is huge. This is huge right here. I love seeing this written down. Can you declare Berserk in the engaged state? Yes, you can. I'm like, yeah, baby, because I love Berserk. I love combat when I can, and that's just great. That was something that was undetermined. I've seen rulings go both ways in some of the events I've played in. Can they can they dodge that? Obviously not. But this one's big right here. Can you Berserk while in a fire team? Another question. I was like, can you? And you couldn't really tell. Yes, you can. And whoever can't perform the Berserk just stays idle. That's crazy. But like in Cosmofly, I love running the Varangians and William Wallace. And man, they all have Berserk. So I was just imagine you got 4 Varangians and William. And you walk up to something and just declare Berserk with all 5 of them. They all 5 can make it into range. Wallace would probably be the leader in that instance, and he would get burst 5. That wouldn't be face-to-face, likely critting all over the place, and you're going to cause at minimum 15 saves. That's ridiculous. There's nothing, I've never conceived anything like that in Infinity before. You rarely would roll more than 5 dice, So, man, you could really get hit hard with a multi-berserk attack. Datarazi Witch Soldiers, I think you could take a core of them. Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, but there's a lot of things that could take advantage of that, and I look forward to trying it. That's gonna be fun to get. So now with the extra burst from the pistols and being able to berserk with multiple guys in a fire team without even having to coordinate an order, that stuff's all gonna make combat that much neater. More dice will be rolled, and I like the idea of combat specialists being able to really wreck what they're trying to hit and not have it such a crapshoot sometimes. Sometimes you're going to get something that's like CC 17, like a tag, and you're CC 23 with martial arts. You're at like 26s, they're at 14s, and you could still roll like that 1-2, and they roll that higher number, and it's like, that didn't feel so good, So it's nice to be able to modify even better some of these heroes out there and make them really be spectacular on the table. So that's what I'm really excited about, friends. Yep. The Berserk thing, the +1 burst on the pistols, and the combat jumpers not being able to use their Impetuous or their irregular order after coming in on the Impetuous. Those are some of the most valuable to me. I'd love to hear from you in the comments some of the things that you think are very important or weren't obvious before, something that almost is like going to change the way you play. I would love to recognize those things. And I hope you guys tune in to see some of these rules in action as we got battles to come. So keep taking fun seriously.